Hello, Facebook. Hello, Ontario Landlords Watch members and our YouTube channel. Tonight, I brought to you once again Zach Killam. He's the CEO of Landlord Credit Bureau, and we have Grant Burwash. He's the VP of Landlord Credit Bureau, here to talk about Landlord Credit Bureau, their new features that they have, and to answer all of your questions that you have about LCB. Now, tonight, I wanted to start this off with just Zach being able to give a quick introduction of who he is, if you missed our last video, as well as Grant. Give us your backgrounds of who you are. Then we're going to talk about what Landlord Credit Bureau is, those new features, and then we'll get to everyone's questions, as many of them as we possibly can. So, Zach, thank you so much for being here tonight. Tell us about you.
My pleasure, Kayla. Thanks for having us back.
Oh, pleasure's all mine. I'm so excited.
So my background, I used to be a corporate lawyer, turned entrepreneur. I was a tenant for 16 years, I think. And now I've been a landlord for about 5 or 6 years.
Nice. Now, probably leads into why you're now the CEO of Landlord Credit Bureau.
Yep, it does. So I actually became a customer of Landlord Credit Bureau to begin with. I was using it for my own rentals, and then liked what the company was doing so much and wanted to help it grow and improve it, both for landlords and tenants purposes, that I joined.
Awesome. Grant.
Yeah, thanks, Kayla. Glad to be on board on this podcast. It's great. So yeah, my background, I've been involved with real estate for well over a decade. I've been a tenant for a long time. I've been a landlord while I was a tenant as well. And I actually found LCB just as I was in the midst of selling my last rental property and moving to Ontario. And it just sparked in me that this is a great idea. It was something that I would have used, and I've moved internationally as well, and so saw the struggle of, as being a tenant, trying to build your credit in a new country where you didn't have anything. So immediately got that from the tenant standpoint for all the benefits, but also saw how it could help you as a landlord as well. So really excited to be here tonight to share some of the benefits and answer some questions and just have a good discussion. So thanks for having us.
Oh, I'm so excited. So if anyone doesn't know about Landlord Credit Bureau, this is, I found them, I investigated them, I'm talking to them like crazy. I'm like, who are these people? Are you legit? Come on, is this legal? This is what we've always wanted, somewhere where good tenants can benefit. We can report tenants to change their behavior in the way that they make their payment for rent. I'm like, this got to be like, it's like a shining star, with us advocating on a daily basis, trying to talk to our elected officials, trying to start campaigns, doing rallies whenever we can, and still falling on deaf ears, because it seems with COVID and our housing crisis, it's caused our entire housing system to be an absolute mess. But a lot of us have to understand that with the landlord and tenant board and the backlog that had came about, and the stats that had well over 80,000 applications, 58,423 of them are for non-payment of rent. And I feel that Landlord Credit Bureau is the way that we're being able to have that problem of non-paying tenants almost brought to mediation without having to bring the landlord and tenant board in the mix and waiting for a hearing or waiting for a dispute resolution officer to help us deal with a tenant that's not paying. But again, there's so many government programs out there that can help tenants pay. We just have to be landlords, know of these programs, and help our tenants, guide them to where they can get access. But for landlords, and being able to report your tenant's monthly payment history of your past and current tenants without having to get their permission, without having to get the order and going to small claims court, this is a game changer for the real estate industry. And this is going to bring fairness to both good landlords and good tenants. Now, I could go on, but I'm going to let you guys didn't want to come here tonight to hear me speak, because I want them to kind of give you an overview of, you know, the step-by-step, these 8 points of what Landlord Credit Bureau is and how it works. Who wants to go, Grant or Zach?
Well, I just wanted to interject. I'm not sure what you're referring to about the 8 steps, but I do want to interject and talk about the questions that many people have, you know, around legality and how does this not existed before and how does it exist now? And of course, whenever anything is new, people have questions and they, you know, wonder all sorts of things about it. But the reality is is as a credit reporting agency, we're not actually doing anything so different from what has always been done with respect to creditors and credit grantors reporting to Equifax and TransUnion. It just had never been brought to our rental industry before. And so what we've done is we've just created the exact same mechanisms and benefits and consequences that credit card companies and utility companies and loan companies and auto loan companies, et cetera, have always been able to do to ensure that, of course, the people who they're giving credit to pay on time and uphold their responsibilities, and at the same time rewarding them if they do. So it's really nothing different than what Equifax and TransUnion have always done. We're just focused on the rental industry and helping out this particular segment.
Yeah. And I have to chime in there for the people who know of what Landlord Credit Bureau and using it personally, to know that as I got in, signing up and being able to report my one tenant that, obviously it was a past tenant. He called us within 24 hours. Within 24 hours. For the unit that we were managing, they called and made a payment. This is literally what every landlord and every tenant needs in Ontario. Grant, what do you got to say?
Yeah, well, just kind of talk a little bit more about what Zach was saying. So kind of the main thing that we're going to talk through here is the ability for those monthly rental payments to impact that tenant's credit. And that's really kind of what we're talking through is as a landlord, you're able to report with those payments, both positive or if they're late or delinquency. So they will have that ongoing impact. They'll show up as a trade line, so exist right beside the utilities, credit cards, auto loans, those sort of instances. So if you're a great tenant, it really helps them build up that credit report, actually be able to buy a mortgage when they're ready, secure a car loan, get better rates on credit cards, whatever they need. And that truly helps them not just within tenancy, because they'll have that rental payment history within us, as well as potential reviews from their landlords, but then they'll also be able to take that beyond with their other needs. And then as far as you as landlords, if there is an instance where that tenant does owe you money, it allows you to truly act on it to try and help collect that debt that is owed to you without having to wait to go to the RTB.
No, so my question for you, I'm getting to the questions before we get to the questions. So hey, I'm hosting. I can do it, can't I?
You can do anything you want. Yep. This is your show.
Absolutely.
So when we're reporting our tenant's monthly payment history, let's say that we have a unpaid water bill that hit our property taxes, or we have a 60-40 split happening within a duplex. I don't really like recommending 60-40 split, can get a little complicated, but now the landlord and tenant board is going to start looking at utilities as an issue before they just, if an N5 and they didn't deal with utilities. So as we're reporting, we report the monthly payment of rent plus the utilities that is now owing as well.
So if utilities is included in the lease agreement, then yes. If it's not included in the lease agreement, then no.
Perfect. So as long as it's there and you're backing it that the tenant has to pay for their own utilities, then you're going to be able to report that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. I just had to get that out there. That's how I started advocating, was over water billing. And then I realized there's many other issues. So now that we got ourselves into reporting rent, reporting utilities, and making sure that you're able to report your good tenants as well. Your tenants are going to love this. This is something that I really liked as I'm doing the screening for these units, is telling them that we are reporting their monthly payment history to Landlord Credit Bureau. They absolutely loved it. They filled out the application. They want to keep growing their credit. They want to get their own rental unit themselves. They want to get into home ownership. So this was something where it actually helped me pick the type of tenant, knowing that we are going to be reporting to Landlord Credit Bureau, and having the effect that if you're getting money coming from your tenants, because they're reporting to Landlord Credit Bureau, bonus. If you're able just to report it so that, these other landlords get to find out, you have a good tenant, or you have a tenant that obviously has been reported in a delinquent status, it's still something where you're still being able to contribute into the landlord community and being able to inform other landlords.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just from a personal point of view, as the landlord for the viewers tonight, The system's incredibly effective at reducing delinquencies and reducing late payments and just generally reducing headaches. On average, we see a 36% reduction in those delinquencies and late payments, which, of course, you extrapolate that now into your time spent calling and chasing for rent payments that haven't come in yet, or dealing with collections actions, or going to tribunal, or issuing the end notices, or et cetera, dealing with damages once someone moves out. I mean, it's incredibly effective at reducing that, because now there is that balance brought back and there is that accountability to the relationship.
Now, Zach, you're probably going to be the best one to talk about this. I know, like, I'm going to have a whole section here, guys, before we get off tonight, talking about the questions that I see them popping up there. But I wanted you to touch base again in the beginning of this live, because I want to talk about the consent. We talked about it in our last video, but we're going to see a lot of people being concerned, being a property manager. Do I need their consent in order to report their monthly payment history?
Yep. Happy to jump into that. So first of all, I'll point everyone to the footer of our website. There's an article called Legal to Report Tenants, and that has the specific details around the legislation as well as a summary of all of this. So good place to go to learn about it. And you can also, of course, share that with anyone who's wondering. But the answer is landlords can use our system without consent. And it works in a couple of different ways depending upon the situation. So just like any other property management software tool, of course, landlords can use it for their own internal purposes. So a landlord can sign up, can register all their tenants. They're doing that for their own internal record-keeping purposes. Now, for good tenants who I'm classifying as pay the rent on time and don't owe any debts, it's an opt-in situation. So they need to give the landlord consent, or they can give us directly consent by logging in and doing so, at which point then the trade line will be registered on their credit report. So if they're responsible, it's their option. They get to opt in or not. But the landlord's still able to record their month-by-month history within the Landlord Credit Bureau platform. Now, for delinquent tenants, so someone who's paying late or owes a debt, that's different. So under the prevailing legislation, you don't require consent in order to report them, and therefore that information is now automatically shared with Equifax and places a trade line on their credit report.
Perfect. I get excited when you talk about it, Zach.
And now, of course, we recommend for everyone to grab our available LCB legal clauses and put them in your application, your lease, and they serve a couple important functions. The first is, by having it in your application, you let any potential bad actors know, hey, we're using this service, and so if you come into my unit and behave poorly, there's going to be consequences associated with it, so please don't, and go somewhere else. And two, you're getting consent right up front. And then by also having it in the lease, it serves the same two purposes.
Awesome.
So those are available both through a link on our footer and also in the resources page once landlords log in.
And they can find all this information on landlordcreditbureau.ca.
Correct.
And if you guys don't have it too, I can send it to you. I'll put it in the group again. It's in our group files. So to make sure that you send it and start including this into your application and also your lease, so that you do have the consent from your tenants with them paying on time as well. Because I bet you they're going to want to see the good report being sent in, because that's going to really help them when it comes down to us doing our screening, because it is a very challenging market out there and people are being turned away. And sometimes it's not about just having bad credit in itself, but showing that good payment history could counteract having that bad credit. And that's where we've always said sometimes landlords have bad credit, or the tenants have bad credit, but they pay their rent on time. So And then you have someone with good credit and they turn out to be horrible. So this is where Landlord Credit Bureau is also filling that void and really giving the chance to someone who's really trying to build that credit.
Absolutely right. And if you don't mind, I also want to go on a different tangent, which is also near and dear to me. And that is, we hear too frequently, I should say, from landlords who have been burned and are owed a ton of debt, and now they're losing their investment property because they can't afford to keep it, and they're saying, I'll never be a landlord again. And that is the opposite of what we need today. We need more rental housing stock provided. We need more investment placed into improving the rental housing stock that we have and producing more of it. And so one of our missions is to reduce that, to mitigate this risk and reduce the risk of delinquencies and bad debts and people causing damages, so that landlords can continue providing housing.
Now, Grant, my question over to you now. So when we're putting our monthly reporting in for our tenants, so if you put them, if you're putting your tenants into the system, they're going to be showing to be paid and on time. You have to log in once a month to inform of the amount that didn't get paid.
Yeah, so our system is fairly intuitive. We want to make it as easy to use for landlords. And all of us that have been landlords, time is very precious. And so you've got a million things you need to do every single day. So the default settings within our system are that every tenant pays on time and pays in full. And so for your great tenants who are doing this, it's automated. You don't have to touch their accounts. So usually what we see are landlords and property managers will log in somewhere between the 3rd and the 5th of the month once they've seen which payments have come through the various systems, and then they'll log any outstanding debts at that point in time. If we're using some of our other features, then that can trigger a late payment warning, which will go out to that tenant, which will prompt them to reach out to you and pay on that debt, and they can log in and verify what amount that is within our system. And then hopefully once they pay that, you can choose to you can go back in and log that debt as being a $0 balance. And so then when it does get reported to Equifax the following month, then it will be reported as paid. And really this is a good protection because it allows a lot of our platform is really to drive positive conversations between tenants and landlords. We really want to try and get landlords the money that's owed and really provide tenants with time to either, in a situation like COVID, put together and agree and stick to a payment plan, or to come forward and provide the rent if they're a couple days late and there is a legitimate excuse or whatever that is, right? We're human beings here. We want to make sure that we're able to drive that positive discussion. And that's why our website is set up the way it is.
Perfect. Now, I want to just jump back and forth here because I know that we had the conversation of no consent is needed for when the amount is owing, but we would want to have consent from our new tenants, good paying tenants. I just want to make sure that our Kamel here, they don't want to get sued. So I just want to make sure we get that in there again, just because it's when right now in our groups, we're putting initials in the city, landlords are talking in networking groups, trying to warn people of just that people are trying to abuse the system. So they don't want to feel like they're doing something illegally. So if we just want to touch in just a 1-minute sentence, Zach, on the consent again, just so that we can put our viewers at peace of mind knowing that they won't get sued.
You can have, yeah, of course, you can have peace of mind using the service, and you're not going to get sued. The service automatically builds in all the protections that are required to ensure that you're compliant in utilizing the system and reporting.
Perfect. And now we're going to go back on one of the when you're reporting your past tenants, it's going to be maximum 2 years.
Nope, 6 years.
6 years. Oh my goodness, I thought it was 2. My bad, guys. My bad. 6 years. This is exciting now. I'm all caffeinated, guys. I'm all caffeinated. Okay, that's great. Now, another one that we want to kind of touch base, talking about just the features before we get into the new stuff. Reviews. We're allowed to get a review. We're putting a review. What kind of stuff would you like to see underneath a review? And also back to the payment side of it, if you have a tenant that wants to dispute, what is that process?
Yeah, I'll handle the reviews, and then Zach, if you want to take the disputes. So when you think of our website, we're really trying to build that tenant record. So the ideal is when you have those great tenants, you're trying to build out the full portfolio of what that rental history has been, which often goes beyond just the payments. And so as you're filling out, we have six objective questions that we ask. There are certain things like, has there been a lawsuit? Did they cause damages over $1,000? Would you rent to this individual again? So that way, when future landlords are searching within our site, they can look to see kind of a more rounded picture of what that tenant is. As well as there is an area where you can actually write in your own words kind of a review of those tenants. And we see those especially come out on that positive side. If you have an individual that maybe doesn't have a very long tenancy with you, and yet you want to help give them a good recommendation moving forward, that's where you can do that. And the tenant is able to actually view that aspect as well. So like what we always say is to make sure that what you're writing is objective and that it is factual. Because otherwise we lead to a dispute, and that's where I'll pass it on to you, Zach.
I lost train of thought. What was the question I was going to answer?
The disputes. How does the tenants handle the disputes?
Yeah, we've created a system to be very simple and easy to use for tenants, because obviously if there are disputes, we want to handle them and get them reconciled quickly. So the tenants are able to log in for free, check the record, see what's on it. If there's any issue, then they should first contact the landlord to correct that issue. If for some reason they can't get a resolution via that way, then they can contact us either through our customer support, or there's also a toggle switch on the record for the tenant which they can turn on, and it will flag that there's something inappropriate in the tenant record for us to look into.
And the 6 questions, besides the reviews, there's 6 questions that landlords can also put in there as they're reporting a tenant into the system. What are those 6 questions?
So those are the ones that Grant just mentioned. So those are the usual questions around, were there any problems caused, any damages caused, things of that nature.
And can they put the dollar amount of the damages?
It doesn't have the dollar amount of damage, but that can be included in the comments section at the bottom of the record.
Perfect. I'm so excited. I know that I've been using it, guys, and just it's amazing the type of feedback that I'm getting. This is why it's so important for everyone to sign up. And tell us about the sign up process. What is the sign up process for when you just want to report, or versus reporting to Equifax? How often does it go to Equifax? Is it monthly? Is it only every 2 weeks? Like, what are we thinking here, guys?
Yeah, so it's free to sign up and create an account with us. You can report your current and former tenants to our system for free. Whereas if you do want to start reporting to Equifax, especially on your current tenants, then that is part of our premium package. And so when you're going through and creating an account, you have to go through an ID verification. That's really a good safety measure, because we want to know that there's a person entering the data. And if we do ever get into one of these dispute situations that Zach was talking about, both the tenant, when they create their account, as well as the landlord, have to verify their ID. So we make sure that we're talking with the right person. So that's an important safety measure for everybody. As you're going through to create tenants, it's really simple. You can do it within the app. Strictly enter the pertinent information on the tenant. If you're reporting to Equifax, we need first name, last name, as well as date of birth. And you do need an email address as well. So then we can send them welcome notices. You could choose to send them late payment warnings or rental reminders as well. And obviously you would tag them with one of your properties that you can simply enter within the app as well. So when we are reporting to Equifax, we do report the previous month. So we report on the 15th of each month for the previous month's rent. So we're coming up on October 15th, which means we're going to report September data on October 15th. And as I was mentioning earlier, the real point of that is to make sure that you actually give time to mitigate any of those disputes and give those tenants the appropriate time to pay.
Awesome. I think this is where I think right after the feed, we'll be able to include the consent form, guys, into our feed, and making sure that everyone has access to it. If you want an email copy, please email me at olwlandlords@gmail.com, and we'll make sure that we can get that application processed right to you. So if you don't want to go on to you want to go on to landlordcreditbureau.ca, so that you're being able to sign up, and you're going to be able to get that application process form to include within your package at the same time. Now tonight, so we talked about Landlord Credit Bureau. We talked about how to sign up. We talked about the legalities of utilities and reviews. Now, what big news do we have for the new features that we have with Landlord Credit Bureau tonight?
Go ahead, Grant.
I was actually going to finish, add one other anecdote to the previous point, and then we'll jump on there. But so I get this question quite a bit when we were talking about entering data, is like, how long will this take on a monthly basis? And what I will say is the updating is usually minutes a month. So, we have talked to a lot of property managers and landlords. And so individuals that have, 100 to 200 units, it usually takes them between 15 to 30 minutes to update every single month. So I think that's an important thing. And I just didn't mention it earlier. So I wanted to just add that thought. So features that we're talking about, we obviously specialize in a lot of the managing of the tenant behavior. That is one of our secret sauces, being able to help those tenants build their credit and help protect landlords from tenants that aren't paying. So the features that we want to talk about tonight are the ability to pull credit checks from us, which are being pulled from Equifax, full credit checks. And for our members, those are $9.99. And those include the score. They include if they have an LCB trade line, they will have some of the rental history. It'll show you the past pulls that have been done on their credit, past addresses, past employments. And so that is, obviously a pretty standard tool that landlords are using to help with their tenant vetting process. On top of our leases, the other component of our tenant vetting you can use is being able to search our tenant database. And so it's important to note here that, we've talked about consent. As landlords, you should always have within your applications that they are giving you consent to search their database, or sorry, to search for background checks, those sort of things. So within our website, you can go and you can pull credit checks as well as search our database to see if there is a tenant record with us, which would have those reviews, 6 objective questions, as well as that month-by-month laid out rental history for that tenant.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, so everyone, that's live. It's a live feature now. Everyone can get in, get their credit checks done. You can, and now you also have the how does the collect fact work? You got the collect feature.
Yep, you bet. So the third new feature that was launched in the last, say, few weeks is the collect feature, and this allows landlords to report former tenants who still owe them a debt, and then we'll assist you with getting that tenant to pay back that debt.
Awesome. Now I want to be able to.
I should mention, for a limited time, that is also only $9.99, one time.
And then that's just, there's no need for updating on a monthly basis. It's always there. It's always into the collection side of it.
So what happens is, so we're not a collection agency, we're a credit reporting agency or a credit bureau. So what happens with that is it, of course, gets reflected on their credit report. And then as soon as they pay the landlord back, then the landlord needs to log in and, of course, clear that debt.
Awesome.
But otherwise, you don't have to do anything with it on a monthly basis.
And for when you are reporting, what type of personal information do you need for the tenant in order to report, to make sure you're getting the right tenant and reporting to for the right people?
Yeah, you need their name and, of course, the address, which will be your rental property, so you'll know that. But full name, date of birth, and email address.
Awesome. Now I had a question that popped in here because we're going to start trying to, keep the conversation going, answering some questions at the same time. Sometimes it's going. So I'm hoping I don't miss anybody. Now, if someone had a question about commercial, if you can do the same for commercial rentals.
Yeah, so commercial rentals, we can do that if there's a personal guarantor. So if there is an individual on the lease as a personal guarantor, then you can report that to us.
Perfect. Another one that we have here is that are we sent an email copy of any correspondence between you and the tenant?
You can choose to do that. So within the system, you can choose whether you're sending monthly rental reminders or whether you're sending late payment notices. There's also a simple toggle that you can turn on to be copied on all the emails. So some landlords like to keep records of those. You can choose to have those sent either to your personal address, or you can use a company address as well. So if you're a larger system and you have, let's say, an accounts or a payable or an info address that you want to use, you can have them sent there as well.
Perfect. And we had Derek's question answered. Can you report a past tenant who has not paid a previous judgment against them? It would be for damages, not paid rent. So that's more of the review. Can we just put the review in there? Is it, or do you have to get yourself into, it has to be the rent first and then a review?
So damages would be put into the review portion.
So if I just want to, let's say that they've caused damage that they haven't paid for, then we can report underneath their review. Is that
That's
how?
correct. Yeah.
Let's see here. So does it cost money for a landlord to sign up and report a tenant not paying rent or utilities? So we have, it's free to sign up, it's free to report to Landlord Credit Bureau, but when you want it to affect the credit, then they have the premium account, which our members get a 15% off by using OLW 15 code for the premium account. And what kind of benefits do you have with just being a premium account as well?
Well, there's discounts on all the one-off features. So the ones we were talking that we're launching tonight. So for the collect, for credit checks, as well as searching our database, there is preferential pricing for all of our member benefits. So if you're using our site at all, then it definitely makes sense to be the premium member.
Awesome. Let's see here.
And in addition, Kayla, I think that the number one aspect of it is you want LCB to be communicating with your tenants and reminding them of the benefits that you're now providing them, or unfortunately or potentially the consequences if unfortunately they aren't paying. So that portion of the premium membership is very important and is what is so effective at ensuring and reducing the delinquency rate.
Perfect. So we have Sumit. He said, can we add a clause into their lease to get the consent instead of the consent separately, as it may be difficult? So like we mentioned, you got that section, that clause that you have on the Landlord Credit Bureau.ca site that you can include that.
Yep, LCB legal clauses, it's called.
And those are really important. Like, we actually get tenants that reach out to us every week. And so as they're going through different applications, we tell them to look for applications that do include these clauses, because obviously building rent is really important to a lot of tenants. So it's a good way for them to actually help screen landlords as well, as they're trying to find these properties. So it's definitely good to have those in not just your leases, but also the application.
Perfect. Now, the question that we would want to know too, just because like we want to make sure that we're sending out the proper message here, is that this is not just the concept of reporting bad tenants. Like, we want to show this to our good tenants. We want to know these good tenants. We want to help them shine above our application. Now, if we have a tenant that's been reported to Landlord Credit Bureau for 12 months straight, can they get something from Landlord Credit Bureau besides just the landlord checking to say that they have great payment history?
Yeah, so they're able to print off their report or email the landlord and let them know how to find it. And that way, then the landlord can see it themselves and see that it's verified by a third party, independent party, and see the fact that they've been a great tenant for the past months, and most likely give them preferential treatment in renting the place. Perfect.
And we have Pearl. She just said we had a forgotten to inform the consent from an old tenant 3 years ago. We should not be using your service. So if we had not, sorry, I'm trying to go over it and then it disappears. So they've gotten informed consent from an old tenants 3 years ago. We should not be using your service. Pearl, if you want to just kind of give more information on that, I'm just not quite understanding it to get it to Zach and Grant here. Can a payment be reported retroactively? So we got 6 years. So you can go back 6 years in order to be able to report your tenant's monthly payment history. It's just when you're reporting past tenants for 6 years ago, you can only put in the full amount owing. You can't put each month that the tenants were late or how much they were late by. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And I think we already talked about how often is the payments reported to Equifax?
Once per month.
Once per month.
All right. So we got the ID. We already talked about that. My goodness, you guys are great with the comments tonight. Oh, I think we're going to have to do another one just so that we're not having anyone staying up a little bit too late to do it. So we do have the physical address to Landlord Credit Bureau. It's right on their website. You can definitely take a look at who they are. They're legit. You can find them. If anyone wants to talk to Zach or Grant, I'm like, if you have a YouTube channel, you want to have them on your YouTube channel, definitely reach out, because this is about spreading the word. This is about having this system to work for the good landlords and the good tenants, because right now there's nothing for the landlords. We are doing everything in our power to be able to go ahead and fight our elected officials. But when they see that landlords are able to be the social agency to hold on to tenants who are not paying, even though there's those government services to be able to help, this is the problem that we need to try to come with. And Landlord Credit Bureau is going to help us mediate these non-payments. The majority of this backlog at the Landlord and Tenant Board is non-payment of rent. So this is where we have to go ahead and come together as the landlord community in order to help our good tenants and make sure that there is repercussions for our tenants who don't want to who wants to scam the system, who don't want to pay, who want to live rent free. This is not okay anywhere in Canada, or anywhere in the world where it's okay to steal. If you walk into a grocery store and you walk out, it's theft. If you have a utility that you're not paying for, you hooked it up for yourself, they catch on to it, it's theft. But in Canada, it's okay. And right now we don't even have a justice system. We keep on saying our thought process is justice delayed is justice denied. And in reality right now is that landlords are not getting heard. They're not getting justice. And this is why we've put our request in to speak with Doug Downey to be able to put in there. And I know for a fact from seeing our information in our group and our screens that are popping up is that more landlords are getting out of this industry. But instead, we just need to utilize Landlord Credit Bureau and be able to report our past and current tenants in a way that we are able to help the good ones, the good landlords and the good tenants. Now, I think I had everyone, there's so many messages back and forth, but I want to make sure that we're going to be having another Zoom meeting with Grant. This way we can have a one-on-one with our members so that we can walk you through the process, we can guide you, we can make you feel comfortable using Landlord Credit Bureau. And I want to be able to thank Zach and Grant for coming on again to talk about this service, because obviously you're here, you're in Canada, and the only province right now that sadly can't use you is
Quebec. Yeah.
Quebec.
Unfortunately.
Sorry, Quebec. Well, why can't Quebec use you right now? What's the difference there?
They're just operating under a different legal framework.
Okay. That's why until they change that framework, then we won't be able to use it. Now, another question has popped up with guarantors. So if you have a guarantor that's on a lease agreement, are they being reported?
They can be. Yeah. There's the provision on our tenant records to add a guarantor.
So within the system, just to highlight, so as you go through and enter that tenant, there's a little button that says cosigner. Cosigner is the guarantor.
This is awesome. This is awesome, guys. I think it's not about, trying to pick on the tenant that can't pay. This is obviously you're reporting at your discretion when you know you can work this out with a payment arrangement. You don't have to report that, they're completely in the arrears all the time. That's there. This is about knowing that you can cut breaks and knowing that they pay, and they can adjust what's been reported to the Landlord Credit Bureau. They can show a payment. Is that how it works with, a tenant did pay? You can now put that in that they have paid. So you get to see this when the next landlord is pulling that tenant search, or they're pulling that payment history. Now, with the credit checks, they're going to be able to see month by month reporting as well on their credit check that they'll get from Landlord Credit Bureau?
So the credit checks are very similar to the credit checks that members would see elsewhere, and they're pulled from Equifax.
Perfect.
So it includes all the information that you would typically see on a credit report.
Now I'll have hopefully some type of example of what your credit checks are going to look like for our members, because some of them are so horrible to read. It's like, what does that mean? What does that look like? Where is that? So I want to be able to get that information to the members and everyone's watching to see what it's going to look like, because I heard it's going to be really easy to read, as well as not so long and lengthy, but being able to get the information that you need to make that decision on getting that tenant into your rental unit. And I know for a fact this is going to change the tenant's behavior. It's changed the behavior of our past tenants. It's changing the behavior of my current tenants. And it's also changing the way that it helps me be able to screen for my tenants that are coming in, because with COVID and some evictions have happened. And this is something where, those people are going to be on the move. So you need to make sure that you are being protecting yourself and protecting your investment, because not all landlords are rich and not all tenants are poor. So we have to see ourselves that we are doing this to protect the business and protect the supply. And that's what we're trying to educate our elected officials on, that we're not just giving these solutions to just protect landlords. We're trying to protect the supply. And every elected official will tell you this is a supply and demand issue that they see with the increasing of rents. And we just have more and more people coming into this province. So we need to make sure that we have enough properties available for rent, and to make sure that we're picking the good people that want to respect your unit and want to be able to pay for that type of service you're providing housing. Let's see here. We'll take one more and then we'll have to bust off because it's obviously everyone still has work tomorrow. Or unless you're on the CERB benefit still, which is great, you know, it's still going, I think. So watching Facebook now, the questions are supposed to be posted, and questions we don't see here, any answering +1. Kristen, did you have a, I think I missed Christian's. I'm sorry, buddy. He's from Ottawa. No, I'm not trying to send out softball questions because I want to make money pumping up Landlord Credit Bureau. This is a system that actually works. They have an address. You said they didn't have an address. They have an address. We had a member post that you have an address. Get on the website, test it out for yourself. And if you're a good paying tenant, you're going to build your credit by having a landlord. And if you are checking out a unit, we have our tenants watching. If you're checking out your unit and you really want that unit, tell that landlord about Landlord Credit Bureau so that they can actually help build your credit as well. Gotta love going public, huh, guys? All right. What's my level of education? Okay, so we're not going to be dealing with that. That's why I'm missing all the other good questions, because of the fact that we have this one going over and over and over again. Okay, so anyways, guys, I won't keep you any longer. We'll get as many people in as possible through the comments. You'll be available if I can get their messages to you in an email to make sure that we get their questions answered. If it's not here tonight, then it's going to be at a later date through their email or by phone even. And then we're going to be able to do another recap of what's happening. And I'm going to do some interviews with some of our landlords who have been using Landlord Credit Bureau, because it's not just about me, it's about the other landlords that are using it. I know we had Alicia on here tonight talking about how she's using it. This is about making sure that we're building that system for our landlords and for our good tenants. And I can't thank you enough for being a part of this Ontario Landlords Watch broadcast. And thank you to all of our watchers who are watching here tonight. And test it out yourself. I can only give you my experience on it. I know I've talked to a lot of companies. I talked to a lot of programs in my 10 years of advocating, and I feel that Landlord Credit Bureau is what we need right now. And this is what's going to really help address almost the backlog at the Landlord and Tenant Board, knowing that we have this system and knowing that we're going to be able to have this dispute. You know, if there is a dispute, they're going to be able to contact Landlord Credit Bureau as well, so that and when you're signing up landlords, you have to show your validation. We got to vet you just as much as, you know, we are vetting our tenants to make sure that you are reporting. And if it shows that you're not reporting the way you should be, then you're going to be banned, and all of the content that you put in there will be deleted as well. But this is something that I want you guys to try out. I want you to support our advocacy efforts by continuing to call your MPP, continuing to call your city councilors, because they are obviously very heavily involved with the housing crisis and the after effect and current effect of COVID. So please make sure that you do your part as landlords. Make sure that you're being a good landlord. Deal with your maintenance concerns. Deal with your tenants on a very customer service level, not as a friend, so to speak. It's very business, but make sure you're providing customer service, because again, this is a business, and you want to make sure that you're doing everything that you can to please your tenants in order so that you can have that good report for yourself as well. Guys, if you want to sign off with anything to the members, give any last word of advice or tips or anything, being landlords yourselves.
We appreciate the support. The number of landlords and tenants who are choosing to sign up independently is incredible, and so we're really excited to have brought the service to Canada and to grow it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Kayla.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And then we'll have to get Marv back on, the founder. So we'll be looking forward to our next Facebook Live or YouTube Live with Marv, and we'll have other members a part of the team as well. So if you have any questions, you can email me at olwlandlords@gmail.com. I'll get that information over to you with the application as well as the consent information. Until then, you can check out landlordcreditbureau.ca and use OLW 15 for your 15% off on your premium account. And I'm sure that you guys will love it just as much as I do. Thank you so much for everyone for watching. Until we do this again, happy renting.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Kayla.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.